Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte, and we are taking a look today at some pretty interesting stuff here. There's been some rumors, and I know a lot of you guys in the comment section hate this stuff. So there could be a solution to it. So this is from Frank Saravelli. At least one GM has requested discussion on closing the quote unquote LTIR loophole. Now, this is from Puck Empire on Instagram. They're a really good account and they kind of broke it down for you. They did a really nice job of it. So I'm going to use their thing here. But basically, my way of discussing it, it's really you put players on. So let's say you have a $9 million contract. Maybe his name's Gabe Landeskog or whatever, right? $9 million, and all of a sudden he's injured. He can't play for the rest of the season. Well, now what do? You have $9 million in a player that you aren't getting anything out of. So what do? He's on LTIR, so now you just don't have that player. Well, with this kind of loophole, you put the guy on LTIR, he's quote unquote injured, right? So in that case, he ends up, his money doesn't count against the team. So that allows them to do what they want to do. That means they have $9 million now of freed up cap space that they didn't have before. And I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter, right? Let's say he gets injured with 30 games left. All right, he played 50 games. Well, there's 32 games left. Okay, he's injured for the rest of the year. Just use it as rest, Mark Stone, potentially. And there you go. You have the money that you need. Now, a lot of teams are doing that. The first one being, not everybody realizes this, the Blackhawks were the first team to do this with Patrick Kane. This has been here since they won their last Stanley Cup in, I think it was 2012 or 2013. You guys will obviously let me know. It might have even been 2015. I honestly don't remember. But the last time the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup, I'm going to say 2015. Yeah, that was when this whole thing started. Kane got injured, and everybody freaked out about it then. Nobody said anything for a couple years. Nothing really happened. And then Tampa did it. And they did it with Kucherov for the entire season. And a lot of people were not too thrilled with that. And obviously, good reason for that, because how is it fair that they have all those players? Because Kucherov, he happened to be ready to go for game one of the playoffs. He just wasn't healthy for the regular season. That's the loophole. So that is what you're looking at here. So this is from Puck Empire. They'll explain it a little bit better for you. An intriguing item has been submitted to be included on the agenda at next week's NHL General Managers meeting in Manalapan, Florida. I don't know, some rich part of Florida. At least one GM has requested discussion on closing the so-called LTIR loophole that has been used most notably by the Tampa Bay Lightning with star Nikita Kucherov, where teams above the salary cap wait until the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs to activate healthy players. And I already kind of discussed that. Teams are able to do that now and activate players they otherwise would have been unable to afford, as the collective bargaining agreement currently is written, because there is no salary cap accounting once the playoffs start. And that's the key thing here. The playoffs do not count toward your salary cap, which allows these players to come back. You could have a $100 million salary cap in the playoffs because they don't account for it. The salary cap essentially no longer exists once the puck drops in round one. The GM who submitted the item for consideration believes strongly that wasn't the intended spirit of the CBA when it was written. In quote, in an $81.5 million cap world, how can you address a $90 million roster in the playoffs? He asked. It's relatively simple. The salary of the 20 players iced by a team in a playoff game must add up to less than the salary cap limit. This season, that is $81.5 million. Notice that is just 20 players. So there is additional wiggle room for teams from the regular season when most teams carry 23 players and need to fit under that same number. Also, players acquired using retained salary will not count, or will count as they did during the regular season, not their full number. Under this proposal, it would not eliminate the ability for teams to add or trade for players using LTIR during the regular season in the event of a legitimate injury. They would simply need to sit that player out or make alternate roster decisions in order to be compliant during the playoffs. Dress whomever you want, so long as you are compliant within the total salary cap figure, which is $81.5 million here this season. The GMs don't blame the Lightning or this year's apparent copycat in the Vegas Golden Knights, should they qualify for the playoffs, that is, right? They say it's a GM's job to bend the rules to find every advantage possible. And that's really what this comes down to. What is that saying? If you're not cheating, you're not trying. Morals aside, everybody's trying to win. And everybody wants to think that they're all high and mighty and they're going to be moral. Listen, when it involves putting money, when it involves putting food on the table, these guys are going to do what they have to do. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with it necessarily. People can say they're cheaters or whatever. If it was cheating, the NHL wouldn't have allowed Tampa to do what they did in the playoffs. We knew that going in. We knew that at the trade deadline when they picked up guys like Blake Coleman 2 years ago, when they picked up David Savard last year. We all knew what they were doing, yet the NHL never stepped in, which means they didn't break any rules. That's what this comes down to. That is what the game of any sport is. Are you innovative enough to keep up with what's going on and finding those little loopholes in the game? Because it's not Julien Brisebois that made that rule. No, they found that out and exploited it. That's what it comes down to. And now it sounds like the cat's out of the bag. Everybody's kind of doing it. I'm wearing the Avs jersey because I never wear the napkin jersey. But they're another team. They put Makar out. They pulled out, I think Makar's back. Landeskog's out for the rest of the year. But they went and got people at the deadline, right? They got Josh Manson. They got the kid from Montreal, Arturi Lehkonen. That's cap space right there. So, kind of interesting. To finish this out, though, some of them are just advocating for the loophole to be closed now. That's not going to happen. This is something that honestly isn't going to get resolved till the summer, if that. That is being optimistic that things get fixed in the summer. Teams are willing to spend the money, and that's what it comes down to. Cup windows are short, and I think a lot of GMs made that clear in their press conference. Even the non-playoff teams, they were like, listen, teams are giving up the farm because they want to win now. Look at teams in particular on the East Coast, right? Washington, Pittsburgh, even teams like Toronto. Maybe Florida has a little bit more of a window, but still, the Florida Panthers, all those teams, how much longer do they have? Even Boston. Boston went out and got Hampus Lindholm. There is so much on the line for so many of those teams this year. I didn't even talk about the Western Conference teams. Those are just in the East. They have a lot riding on this season, and they're willing to go above and beyond. They have owners that are willing to do what it takes to get this team to the promised land, and that's kind of what we're seeing right now. It is becoming baseball to an extent because it's which owner is willing to spend the most. Is that good for the game? Maybe. The NHL lasted a long time without this whole salary cap space and floor and ceiling. It just creates more parity in the league, but I think people are realizing that with kinks in the armor like this, maybe the parity isn't there as much as they would like. And we are seeing that in the standings a little bit, but that's not necessarily the case all the way. You look at the Montreal Canadiens, they have spent the most amount of money out of any team in the NHL, over $92 million. Yet they're in the sweepstakes right now. They are potentially going to get Shane Wright with the first overall pick. So spending money doesn't mean everything. We've seen that plenty of times. The Islanders gave a 15-year contract to Rick DiPietro. How did that work out? Shea Weber, he's still getting paid that big contract from the Nashville Predators. he's not going to be retiring anytime soon because he knows that the salary cap penalty and potentially draft picks could be ousted for the Nashville Predators. He's not going to do that to a city that really took care of him throughout his time in Nashville. So there's a lot of little things in the NHL. Is that a loophole? Is anybody going to talk about what's going on there with Shea Weber? I remember as far back as the Maple Leafs, keeping Shane Robida out of the lineup. I remember a couple people up in Toronto, they were calling it Robida Island, right? Because they were just saying Lou Lamoriello found a kink in the salary cap, put the guy on LTIR, he never comes back again, and now you free yourself with the cap space. That's the kind of stuff that this is kind of where we're at in today's league, and that's how it works, right? So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think of all this stuff here with the CBA and the salary cap situation and trying to get rid of the LTIR loophole? Guys, if you could give me a deadline, when do you think the LTIR loophole will be taken out? Do you think it'll be this spring before the playoffs? Do you think it'll be this summer in the offseason? Or could we be waiting another year or two? Let me know what you guys think. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.